Hey everyone, it's me again. Just want to start off by saying thank you for 11 subscribers. I'm so excited. I really didn't expect more than 5, honestly. For some reason I felt like everything's gonna be harder. But okay, so I did a poll on Twitter and I was trying to decide which topic I should go into for my next video. And it turns out the winner between PTSD, anxiety and depression, spiritual awakening, and I forgot what else. Whatever. But the winner just seemed to be anxiety and depression. So I'm going to be talking about my experiences with anxiety and depression and how I was able to overcome it and the tools that helped me, as well as my experiences. So I'll start off by saying I had noticed some anxiety come into my life about, I would say, 5 years ago, maybe even 4. It was never as bad. It's weird because when I say anxiety, people might think that I had anxiety all my life or something. Some people do, but it wasn't until I moved out of home, living with my mom, that I really noticed that I had anxiety. In school, I always noticed that I was shy. Sometimes I was very reserved and closed out, so I used to blush sometimes. That was the most of my anxiety. I was very, kind of sheltered, so I didn't know really that anxiety was a thing. I thought it was just people are who they are. So I just thought that was me. But then when I moved back to New Jersey with my father and was dating my boyfriend, that's when it kind of kicked in. So it's weird. I'm not exactly sure what things triggered it, but I'm pretty sure me being in a new environment. But yeah, so I feel like my anxiety was really triggered by just being in a whole different environment, living for the first time with my dad since I was 5 years old, I believe. So I always thought that I knew my father. You think you know someone when you're a little kid and they call you every day and they're just the same person all your life. You think you know somebody, but boy was I wrong. So anyways, before I moved back in with my father, I ended up living with my boyfriend. So I talked about that in my blog, so let me just get a little bit of a, backstory. So me and my boyfriend started dating. We worked at the same spot together in a military base. So through there we met and we started dating, and eventually we made it official. And within pretty soon after that, I was in a situation where I was living with my sister. It was only for not even a month or so that I was living there. She kind of begged me to stay with her, to change up my life. I wasn't doing such, I don't know, I would say I wasn't on the path that I would want to be, and you don't want anyone to be down that path, but I'll get into that later. So my sister wanted to take me in so that I could get back on my feet and get a more decent job than what I was working for. I was still in the army, but that was just once a month, and I didn't want to be in the army anymore, honestly. It seemed a lot of pointless, but I'll talk about that in another story as well. So I think the army did actually trigger some things in me, but it more triggered it and I suppressed it, because that's all you really were taught to do in the army, is to basically hold everything in and suppress it, and they don't really give you good ways to cope with things or to deal with your mental and emotional health. So yeah, So I didn't know I was in a bad place, but my sister took me in. She wanted to help me out, so yeah, things were a little rocky there. I think I explained that maybe in my last video or one of the blogs. Basically, the reason why I ended up moving in with my boyfriend was because it just felt like I wasn't home. I didn't feel comfortable. I was at the time 19 years old, and it was like I was going back back to high school again. Like, I wasn't even, the way that my sister treated me, it was almost as if I was like going back to live with my mom or something. But my mom wasn't even like that with me. She wasn't on my ass or anything about what time I need to be home. And that's really the only thing. Like, I cleaned up after myself, but there were some things I was just unconscious of because of the way things were in living with my mom and my stepdad all my life, and knowing my sister as who she is, and then seeing her get married and have children is like a whole different switch up. So the way she does things, I guess she didn't want to mix anything up, so I felt like I was like her daughter, and I didn't really like that. I felt like I wasn't free. I wasn't really finding my own direction. I felt like I was being pushed into things, into a life that wasn't really me, especially religion. I tried going back to church and stuff. I really gave it a shot. But eventually, when I started dating my boyfriend, it seemed like my sister, she wanted to be more strict or something. And okay, if that's what you want to do, okay. But I didn't like it, so I ended up leaving. There was a couple instances where we almost had little confrontations. It was just weird. It just didn't feel like my sister anymore, honestly. So I moved in with my boyfriend, and we ended up living in a big house with about 10 other roommates. And I'm not gonna lie about this, but there was a lot of drug activity in there. It wasn't a very good place. I would say I wouldn't want to go back to that, but it was an experience. It was a learning process. I was never around that kind of thing before. But so yeah, I got into that. We lived there for about a year. We moved out, and then we moved back in, and so altogether it was we were there for about a year and a half or so. The first time we moved in with my dad, it was because I believe it was when I got in my car accident. I got in a car accident. Or you know what? This is just stuff that doesn't matter. So, long story short, moving in with my boyfriend, living with all these teens, people my age, up to 25, I guess. And I was 19 at the time. There was a lot of parties going on. So it was just like a frat house, it seemed. So basically we got to do whatever we wanted. We didn't have any rules. We just kind of respected it, gave each other the same respect that we would expect for us. But there was still drama there. There was a lot of things that I never dealt with before. It was like high school all over again, except I didn't have the option to go home and be away from this. It was in my house. It was in the home. And so that got me a little out of my element. I was very insecure. I was never really taught to love myself, so therefore I made my worth contingent with things externally, and I let myself be defined by the things that I wore, the things that I did, my jobs, my accomplishments. Basically, I didn't know who I was, so I would cling to all these external circumstances, people, things, just to find value within myself, just to feel like I am valuable. So therefore, I was very insecure. So living in a frat house, basically, what is it? Trap house, they call it. So basically, living in a trap house is there's all these girls that come in and out, and it's just a lot of stuff. So someone who's not very secure with herself, she's gonna find, kind of not really intentionally, but I went and I let things become a factor that shouldn't have in my life. I let things define my worth. I let myself become angry because of these things, because I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to communicate it healthily with anybody. All I saw in my life was just sit with it, and if I had a problem, it was my fault. really. So I can't go to somebody to talk to them about it. The only thing I knew how to do was to project, to let someone know that I'm angry, or to treat someone the way they're treating me. So, and whether they were justified for doing it or not, or they had a good reason, I didn't understand. I just felt like it was being done to me, like things were being done to me. So it's like a mirror, we face mirrors. That's a whole nother thing. But basically, so I really recognized some things there. Me and my boyfriend used to argue, and I never was the type to really argue. But I also never been in a relationship where it's really like we're there all the time. We're with each other. We're literally together 24/7, and we had a closeness that I never had before. So we bumped heads, and it was a necessary process. I had to learn a lot of the stuff that was keeping me back in that low state. So basically, insecurities had a lot to do with it. And when you really look deep down, it stems with our parents. Like, I felt like I never got the attention from my father that I deserved. I never knew what I deserved either. So you kind of just take life as it comes at you, and you don't know what you deserve and what you don't deserve. So that's something that we should all look into, figure out the way we were raised as children and the relationships that we had with our parents. Because a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, they become mirrored in our own relationships. And that's something I had to face. I had to come to terms with. It wasn't until I came to terms with that a whole bunch of other things came to my awareness, which made my anxiety a lot more hard to deal with. So, more recently, I would say the past year and a half, we've been back with my father. And at the time when I was working at Claire's, it was a lot of stress for me. I was working 8 hours a day, 40-hour weeks, and sometimes overtime. And they had me working morning shifts, night shifts a lot, so it was either one or the other. I didn't have a consistent schedule. They kind of just played with me, it seemed like, just because, like, I came in as third key, so I had responsibilities as a manager, and they kind of took advantage of that. They knew that I knew how to do my work, and I knew the processes and all that. So it seems like they knew I liked that, because I knew that meant I would get promoted soon. So they had me doing a lot of manager stuff before I even became the manager, and there were 2 other girls who were assistant managers before I became assistant manager. And it just seemed like my niceness was taken advantage of. While I was at work, I always loved to do the job. Like, why would I go to work and do nothing and let the time go by super slow? Like, I love to, like, look around the store, see what needs to be done, make a list, and do everything just to make my time go by faster, because I'm getting paid for it. So why not do anything? I never understood why some people would like to slack. Like, this is your time and you're not making good use of it, so do you expect that you're going to move forward? But anyway, so that's just how I thought about it. So, and they saw that, and they took advantage of it. They had me work on all the holidays. They had me opening, closing. They gave me most of the load of work to do, just because they knew I would do it. And when someone else slacked, they wouldn't get it wouldn't get talked about with them. It would come down to me. I'd be the one who takes the short end of the stick, I guess you could say. So I really felt unappreciated, and it really took a toll on me. Every day I came to work, I was finding that I was stressed about something, and also not only at work is it stressful, but the things I was going through at home were stressful as well. So I'm just gonna get to the nitty and gritty of my anxiety. It used to be really bad. I used to hate myself. I used to be ashamed. I didn't know how to be with myself either, and it came out of nowhere, it seemed like. I remember maybe it started one day when me and Austin were in the beginning of our relationship, and I remember he decided, and this was the first time he lived with my dad, he decided that he might not be able to do this. Like, there was a lot of things going on, and I know my dad had a lot to do with it, but like, Austin would always try to tell me things about my dad that he's trying to like come in between us or something. I never saw it. I was in denial. So I would argue, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I would kind of like make it, because I thought Austin just didn't want to be with me. Like, why are you making these things up? Like, and I'd feel like the victim. I'd feel angry. And I just remember that one time that it might have been where it started. Like, he was gonna leave me, and I didn't know what to do about it. I was sitting in the car in the driveway, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to show my father. I didn't want my dad to know that I was hurting. I think deep down I knew it was because my dad only really likes to give me any sort of attention if he sees that someone else brought me to that low space. So he can be my hero, but he's not really a hero. He's just choosing when he wants to be there for me. He's never there for me. He never wants to talk to me about anything, about how my day went, how I'm feeling, anything that's of like positivity that you would expect your father to want to talk to you about, or just have a relationship with you. It was never like that. My dad only talks to me if I can do something for him, like if I can do the dishes for him, or if I can clean something, go get something for him from the store that he doesn't want to do because he works too much, so he'll make that excuse. So it was very hard for me at that moment where I first basically got broken up with from my boyfriend. We're still together now, almost 5 years, but that was just a moment. And I have PTSD, so it took a very long time for me to realize that that kind of played a big role in a lot of my anxiety and depression, because a lot of our anxiety basically comes from us worrying about something in the past happening again in the future. So we're not even living in the now right now. Like, when we're in anxiety, we're thinking about the future. We're worrying about something happening, and usually it's stemmed from a similar situation that happened in the past, and you're starting to notice a similar pattern that thing might happen again. So anxiety is us worrying about it happening again. So what we need to understand is that if we're worrying about something that might happen in the future, it's because we're stuck in the past as well. So we're dwelling on the past, and that's what I was doing. I think that triggered a lot of my anxiety, because I never knew how to be with myself, especially when someone doesn't want to be with me. Like, if someone doesn't want to be with you, like, how do you even want to be with you? Like, you feel like something's wrong with you, especially when no one tells you the reality of like emotions and love. And I don't know, it's just, especially when you have a toxic family, it's very hard. It's hard to not expect that other people will be able to, I don't know, understand what you're going through, or even that you even know how to articulate it. So basically, I don't want to make this video so long, but I've had moments where I'm like so angry, I want to break something. I have broken a lot of things, my fair share of TVs, phones, a lot of phones, iPhones. Thank God right now I found art. I found art in the past year again, so it's been my release for a lot of things. It's tremendously helped me. I can't even explain like how important it is to find an outlet. Back then I didn't have anything. I just worked. I had my boyfriend and my father. My father did the same thing every day. He came home from work, and I didn't know how bad it was affecting me, because there was always something else in my life. There was always something else that I felt like I was dealing with, that I was trying to overcome. Especially in the past 5 years that I've become spiritual, and realized that all these things are happening for a reason. So I'm always trying to find what the deeper cause is of something. So finding an outlet is the biggest thing that's helped me. I used to feel such shame and hate for myself, because I used to feel so angry that whatever's happening in my life is happening to me. Like, what did I do to deserve this? And like, because I couldn't sit with my emotions and try to understand them, I felt like it was being done to me. Everything that was presented my way, my father, things he brought to me, problems, any problem with my boyfriend, any problem with my mom, my sister, anything. Like, I didn't have an outlet for it, so it all built up. It built up so much that I didn't understand what I really was upset about, what I was depressed about. And every day I just found myself trying to find a way to cope. Before I got into my art, I would I don't know, I don't even really know what I was doing. I know that's a crazy thing. Like, I used to be an alcoholic. I'm 25 now, and this was around the year, like, when I was 20 to about 22 years old. Me and my boyfriend would drink every day. We would drink hard liquor. We did some things we're really not proud of to ourselves. Like, we didn't care about our bodies the way we should have. And all these things it was our way of being able to be present with ourselves. And we weren't even present. It was just a way for us to be okay with living. Like, it's a lot of stuff that we want to, like, we hold in. And when you hold it in, you find yourself looking for distractions all around you because you don't want to sit with yourself. You can't sit with yourself, because if you sit with yourself, then that means you have to face how you really feel. That means you have to face your denial. That means you might have to face the reality that the people you care about might not really care about you, that they're selfish, and that every memory or all the things, that the way you thought of them is not really how it is. And that's hard. It's very hard to deal with. So that's a core reason, I think, as to why we hold on to our emotions. We don't want to feel them. We suppress them, and like, it might feel like you don't have it because it's not there, but it's there. You're suppressing it. The best way to release an emotion or a trauma is to be there with yourself, to maybe even jot down how you felt, the situation, if you feel down to it, if it's not too much. Write out a situation that really hurt you, that you feel like you never were really able to process, because it definitely, let me tell you, it affects you a lot more than you know. I'm still, after 5 years, you would think that all the, like, I don't know, I had a lot of mind-blowing moments, a lot of breakthroughs where I feel like, oh my gosh, my life is going in a whole different direction. I'm so happy, like, or like, I put pieces of the puzzle together and it just looks so clear to me, like, I understand everything. There's a lot of those moments, and the biggest thing that I would let you know is to not be attached to those. Don't think that because you had that moment that you're not gonna have another one, that there's not gonna be something else that you might have to learn. And it might be something that you don't want to go through, but as long as you remember that all the other times you felt that you've had a breakthrough, that's all you need to hold on to. You don't even need to dwell on it. You just accept that it's happening. You accept that this is how you feel. Sit with yourself. You don't have to do anything. Even if you want to sit for like 10 minutes, like, just sit for 10 minutes and don't do anything. See where your mind tells you. Don't dwell on it. Write things down if you need to, but just let yourself feel it. Once you're able to be there with yourself, you're able to you get insights a lot more clear because you let it go. And once you let it go, you open up a space for understanding and compassion for yourself. And then you don't have to feel like the world's out to get you, that these things are happening to you. These are things that were put in your life for you to grow, for you to learn, because how else were you supposed to learn given the situation that your whole life has been surrounded by, like, or your family, the family dynamics you were born into. If you understand, you have to understand that if it wasn't for these things happening, you would have been stuck just like the people you want to help. You would have been stuck like them because their lives are so mediocre that there's no problem big enough to change. They don't want to change their life because there's nothing wrong with it. They don't even know what happiness is, but it's really them being comfortable. They've suppressed all of their emotions. They didn't take a look at their childhood. They let their conditioned beliefs rule their lives. And we just have to be grateful when these things come up. Whenever anxiety, depression hits, we have to sit there and be there with ourselves. Maybe even meditate. If you don't like meditating, it's the same thing. Just find something that you can be present with yourself, whether it's like painting, listening to music, just sitting there. Allow yourself to not run to something else. Don't let yourself distract yourself, because that's what your mind's going to do. That's the first thing that it loves to do. It likes to find something to get you distracted. And not only that, but it will also love to find, I don't know, this is the best way I know how to say it. So if I'm in a vibration where I feel like something has been done to me, like let's say my dad recently, he threw away all my spoons. Well, he's been doing it like little by little, so I don't notice. But when I wanted to make smoothies yesterday, and I was trying to scoop the ice cream, I noticed there was no spoons. I looked everywhere, and I really was about to get angry. But it makes me like, this is the thing, when I allow myself to see something like that and say, he did that to get me angry, instead of understanding that maybe even if he did do it to get me angry, like it has nothing to do with me. This is not the end of the world. It's a spoon, and I had to come to realize that this is the type of person that my father is. He wants to bring me down in some way, so he'll stoop that low. But as long as I don't take it as personal, like he wants me to take it, these things won't keep happening. When I take it personal and I feel like the world is out to get me, something like what else is he gonna do next? The first thing that my mind brings my eyes to, like the next thing I just so happen to look at is something that makes me feel that same way. Like I'll see some mess on the floor, and my mind will tell me, oh, they wanted to disrespect me. They don't want me to be happy, or they want, I don't know, the things your mind tells you, when something is happening, like a lot of times we tend to take it very personal. We feel like someone's doing this to get us angry. A lot of times some people are, but even deep down, if they really are trying to do that to get us angry, it really has nothing to do with us. It has more to do with them. They're really that angry inside that they really want us to feel that way. So when we recognize that, that's when we decide to tell ourselves, nope, this is not happening. I recognize this for what it is. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the decision with my most clear state of mind. So we don't suppress it. We accept it. So just don't take it personal. Don't feel like this is being done to you. I'm telling you, if you think that way, then you'll find a lot more things that will tell you and prove to you that the world is doing this to you. If you believe it, it will happen. I'm sorry to say that, but I've been like living proof of this, and it's kind of frustrating. It's very frustrating because the more you talk about it, the more you focus on it, the more it happens, and it's like, what the heck? Do I really have to like hold this in and just not talk about it at all? No, you don't have to do that. What you do is notice that it's there and be there for yourself. Sit with yourself and understand this is not the world out to get you. This is reminding you of a trigger that you didn't notice. And be grateful for it, because if you didn't notice this trigger, imagine everything going smooth down the road, let's say 10 years from now. Everything's perfect, but then this trigger happens. But you didn't know it was a trigger because this is the first time it happened. And you don't know how to handle it, so you just throw everything out the window. And everything was just perfect in that moment. This is times where we need to appreciate our triggers in this moment, because there's always another tomorrow. Like, we always have time to learn these things. We always have time to live a better life. Time doesn't exist, but basically, so just, yeah, you know what I'm saying. So don't dwell on it. Be there for yourself. And remember that if you're depressed, you're living in the past. And if you're anxious, you're living in the future. You don't want something that's happened already in the past to reoccur. And because you already went through it, you have to understand it's not as hard, it's not as scary as it seems. Like, you've experienced that before. So just understand that this is what you don't want to happen. Say, okay, this happened before, and I didn't like it. It made me feel this way. I don't want it to happen again. And then just sit there, but sit with yourself and say, but if it does happen again, I will be okay. This will be something else to learn. I'll be able to learn just like I learned that mistake. Or, just be there for yourself. It's a process of being 100% with yourself, as if you were your best friend. Like, think of your very best friend, or your parent, family member, or something, and be there for yourself as if you were speaking to them. And the love that you want to transfer to them, give that to yourself. I'm telling you, we don't understand that these things work so much because we just never did it before. We never were taught to give ourselves that love. We were never taught to be there with ourselves. Everyone else pushed us away. Everyone else made it seem like their life was too important, like their job was more important. Something was more important than us, and that's what we have to understand. It's okay to feel these things, but be there for yourself, okay? And I'll be getting more into more experiences on anxiety and depression probably within the next few videos. There's a lot more I could get into. I just didn't want to get into a super long video. But yeah, I hope that you guys can take something positive from my video, and if it helped you or may help a friend, just let them see it or whatever. Now I'm just jumbling. Okay, so thank you so much for watching my video. I appreciate it so much, and if you liked the video and if it benefited you in any way, a like would be awesome. And if you want to continue seeing my content, then subscribe. That would mean the world to me. Thank you so much and have a great day. Namaste.